Welcome to Charting Cryptos and Commodities. We're going to first start off, as we always do, with Bitcoin in the crypto portion of the broadcast. What do we see going on? Well, a good sign. We finally see some green that's actually spiking up when it comes to the STC. Now, it spiked up quite a bit without a whole lot of movement. Even when we had 4 weeks of decent movement, we didn't see things go from red to green, but we have with just 2 weeks of so-so movement, but it's something. We're still below the 200 EMA. We've still sort of hit a bottom here that's held so far right around what that $18,000 mark or so. Now, unlike we do daily where we're looking at XBTF, which is the Bitcoin Future ETF by Van Eck, this is the actual 24-hour-a-day Bitcoin chart from one of the crypto indexes. So what we're looking at here is where Bitcoin is, as far as this exchange goes and where it's selling it. So as we look at it, again, remember, we're still below the 200 EMA on this weekly chart. We want to press through that before we feel comfortable with Bitcoin taking off, and it's nowhere near that at this point. It's going to have to gain a lot of momentum, shoot way up. Now, when we go to Ethereum, we do see some good news there, but we've seen this before, okay? We saw Ethereum cross over from red to green, bounce above, slide sideways, and then move right back down. It's now trying to push up again. It went from red to green. We saw things switch over last week, and it's trying to push through the 200 EMA. Again, remember, the biggest player of all is Bitcoin. It's what I say is the tide that comes in and out of the harbor. It lifts all the other boats, including Ethereum. So again, Ethereum could change things up and lead the way out, maybe, but we want to see where it goes, and if it clears this, resets itself, and then gives us an opportunity to jump into it. For those of you brave enough to jump into a weekly trade here, where it touched and started moving up, it's not passed through. There's no candle pushing through yet. Still don't even have it yet. It seems to be trying to do so. I wouldn't recommend it. But again, practice trading is practice trading. You can sure do what you want. If you're doing that, I do encourage you to take notes. Make sure you understand what you're doing and why you're backing up. Justify what it is you're doing. Track it, and make sure that you learn from what you are doing. But again, I would only look at that as some kind of practice trade at this point. I don't see any reason for it. Now, when we look at where we are on XBTF, we talk about that for you every day. It too has gone from red to green, but again, slight movement. We still have that 4 weeks starting in mid-July through the beginning of August, and then things crashed back down. So we're not holding our breath on this one. We look at the top 10 cryptocurrencies weighted per market share. Of course, Bitcoin being the biggest dog, we can see where things are really just sort of still in that sideways slide. No takeoff, no rocketing up, but maybe we're finding a bottom. Maybe we're getting ready. I just don't know. Don't have enough information. Have seen so much hammer down that we're not going to sell our souls and get ourselves into trouble doing something stupid. Now let's move over to from cryptocurrencies to commodities. Let's first look at, and I've just ranked these by how well they did today, starting with the strongest for the day, going to the weakest. It doesn't mean they'll translate to that as far as this weekly chart goes, but we see gasoline. Now, gasoline, of course, peaked all the way back in the beginning of June, late May, beginning of June, and then lots of red down candles. But for now, going into the 5th week, we see where gas is tracking up some. It is above the 200 EMA, not hit the highs yet of last week, a smaller candle also. But again, gas gaining some over the last few weeks. Hasn't crossed over on the STC, still red. So we'll just watch, see where it is. But again, when you listen to the markets and what's really happening, you hear the talking heads, check out the commodities charts before you start buying into the madness. And the last chart I'm going to show you is going to show you that, give you a whole different perception on what you're being told. What about sugar cane? Where is that? That's the number 2 up for the day. Sugar cane peaked most recently back in those 2 weeks, beginning the 10th of October, 17th of October, last 2 weeks, moving down to its 200 EMA. We can see where sugar peaked way back in April. Down for a few weeks, popped up, and then pretty much down until these 3 prior weeks, and now sort of settling back down toward its 200 EMA. So again, if we're going into some kind of terrible recession where, again, with inflation, with prices just catapulting up, we're not seeing that when it comes to sugar. So maybe you'll still be able to get your candy. What about copper? Now, what does copper mean for us? Well, copper is it's a big business metal. It's a big industrial metal. Where is it? It's just sort of riding steady below its 200 EMA. Now, it is below that. It did peak, back in April, maybe even before that. It peaked in February, late February. So again, has gone down quite a bit, sliding sideways these last few weeks. Let's jump next to oil. Just like gasoline, oil's been going up, although it really peaked most recently back in mid-October. Again, not spiking, not hitting up these highs that it hit back in June yet. May do that, but again, nothing crazy happening. Still red on the STC. Silver up for the day, 2.44%, but again, just sort of sliding sideways. Again, it's another metal used in a lot of industry, still below its 200 EMA. What about wheat? A lot of the world lives on wheat. Well, we saw wheat tracking up for a while, nowhere near these highs back in February, and then again back in mid-May. It's just sort of popped up for a few weeks and then down for the last 2 weeks, trying to move up some this week. Not a whole lot happening, nothing crazy going on. Soybeans, a lot of animals and such and humans live on soybeans. Where are they? Well, they're off their highs, tracked up for a few weeks, down for the last few weeks and sideways, popping up a little bit so far this week. Nothing all that big going on. What do we see when it comes to corn? Again, another feedstock. We can see that it has been tracking up quite a bit. Last few weeks sliding sideways, but again, has been trailing up far above its 200 EMA. So keep an eye on that. Gold, of course, we track for you every day, just continuing as far as the weekly chart goes, heading down. We're in a down trade on gold right now, even though it popped up for the day just over 1%. We'll see how long we stay in that. But again, nothing big happening there. It comes to coffee, which I love to drink lots of every day. Price has just been tumbling. Last week it pierced on its bottom wick the 200 EMA on the weekly chart. And of course, a red down candle so far this week, down for the day, 1.28%. Now here's the big downer for the day. You hear about natural gas, people not having gas. Gas is going to be unavailable. Well, it's really interesting. Gas peaked back in August, and it has been trundling down ever since then, down for the day 7.56%. Below the 200 EMA, cleared that on the week beginning the 17th of October. Stayed below it last week and is below it this week. What's going on? Is that what you're hearing in the news? Well, that's what you're seeing as far as the price goes. The international price set by the markets. Isn't that curious? We'll continue to watch, see what's going on. I tell you, empower yourself with these commodities when you find them to trade. Of course, backtrack them. Make sure those charts are working. You can use the short term, medium term, or long term. That's the half day, 2-day, and the weekly. And I would encourage you, the things you're interested in, practice, trade them, because perfect practice makes perfect. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team here at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.